Hey everyone, welcome to another RCTA video. In this video I would like to run through with you the basic setup procedures for the RC5HL 2017 board. Okie dokie, many of you may be familiar with it, but I'm just going to run through for any new people interested in getting it for the first time. Okay, first of all, just to make sure everyone's on the same page, the RC5HL unit basically interprets your 2.4 gigahertz signal, converts it into a signal that the old RX18 will understand through this cable and controls the RX18 unit. It's only for the 27 megahertz version, okay, so that's quite a while ago, and the older version the better. Particularly the version that doesn't require the micro switch, although it will still work, it works best with the older versions. Okay, so connection is very simple. You just remove the 3-pin cable from your receiver board and stick it into the RC5HL and connect up your receiver. Oh, I threw that in too fast. Okay, now you'll get with your RC5HL a receiver connecting cable. Now, the first set of wires, the black, red, and white wire, they must be, well, the first 5 wires must be connected, but this supplies the power to your receiver and also the channel 1 signal. So we'll get into that in detail very soon. Okay, so you'll get one of these cables. Now, the important thing with the RC5HL, just so that you get the most efficient transfer of information, is that you must have the channels in a specific order. So it follows basically the Turnigy protocol, whereby you have steering on channel 1. Okay, you can see I'm moving the steering stick here, and there's movement on channel 1 on the radio. Your engine acceleration, deceleration is on channel 2. Your motor elevation, your gun elevation is on channel 3, and your turret rotation is on channel 4. You also must have a switch on channel 5 that can provide at 100% to turn the tank on. Now, a lot of radios will have that as a gear switch. I've just programmed it on this radio. There we go. So to turn the tank on, it's 100% and then back to the neutral position. Very important. If you leave it in the on position, your tank will turn on. If I was to leave that like that, the tank will turn on. Then once it runs through a process, it'll realize it's back to 100% and it will switch off because, you know, that is on and it runs, and then that is off. So remember, you must have your channel 5 going back to 0. It must toggle, in other words. Okay, now the other important thing to know is your weapons. Your weapons are operated on the extremes of channel 3, just like your Turnigy system. Now, a lot of people ask me about the Spectrum radios. Now, here is one of the reasons why Spectrum are not really good for running tanks. And it's very controversial here, but they're really designed for planes and pilots and novice pilots, and as such, by default, a lot of the channel range is much reduced. So you'll find that without changing settings on your radio, you cannot get the trigger up to 100% to trigger the guns and the guns, and that's why we've had to write a special sub-program on the RC5HL for the Spectrum radio. I'll deal with the Spectrum radio in another video, but just be aware of that. Now, as I said, with this one, I've just set up the cannon on 100% on channel 5. Channel 3. There we go, and then the machine gun minus 100% on this switch. So there all are weapons set up. We're talking the basic setup here, so I won't run through the extra lighting functions that pretty much were covered in some of the more advanced videos. Okie dokie. Now, let's look at our receivers. If you get a good new receiver, this is probably the best system I think you can get, FR Sky. The connection is really simple. You know, your channel 1 goes into channel 1. As you can see here, we've got the color coding, so it goes, black, red, which is ground, and then positive supply. And then we have these different colors, and they come in order. White is 1, yellow is 2, orange is 3, green 4, and so on down to gray. You just simply match those up. So channel 1, which is white, goes into channel 1, yellow into 2, orange 3, green 4, blue 5, purple 6, and grey 7. You don't need to have these 2 channels connected, but you need to have those 5 channels connected for operation. Okay, now this is important, because with these receivers send out the signal in this order. They send them out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the signal, and then it'll repeat. Some receivers do not do that, surprisingly. And one example is the Turnigy, this receiver. I'm sure you guys will be familiar with this receiver. This receiver is a little bit quirky, the whole reason for this video is to show you setup basically for this receiver, because it's quite common. The channels aren't set out in numerical order, so that's a bit of a problem with this, but again, we've written software on the RC5HL to take care of that. Now, if you're using one of these receivers, very important, you must swap channels 2 and 3 around here at the receiver. As you can see with my other receiver, okay, channel 1, channel 2 is yellow, channel 3 is orange. That's normal. On the Turnigy receiver, channel 1, but channel 2 is orange, and channel 3 is yellow. Again, look at the difference. I should put them around this way so that they match up. Okay, yellow is 2, orange is 3. So we basically have to swap around 2 and 3 for this receiver. Not only do we have to do that, we also have to let the RC5HL know that we're going to use one of these receivers. And so you'll see we have our selection jumpers here. Now, if you have no problems, any 6-channel receiver, there's usually no problems. You can just leave the jumper in this position on the 2 pins closest to the main microcontroller. If we're using the Turnigy, you need to take the jumper out and you need to jump across the top 2 pins. See, it's now across the top 2 pins. I'm going to bring it up there, but okay, it's across these top 2 pins. That lets the RC5HL know that you're using the Turnigy receiver. If you're using a Spectrum receiver greater than 6 channels, you bridge these 2 pins. Okay, so Turnigy, 8-channel receiver there, Spectrum or orange receivers greater than 8 channels across here. So we've set our selection jumper for our receiver. We now plug the receiver into this port here. Plug it around the right way. And we will be right to go. Okay, so we have the jumper selected for the Turnigy receiver, and we have swapped around channels 2 and 3. Okay, let's apply some power and we'll start up. Again, you'll see flash slowly to indicate it's getting a signal, and then it'll start to flash very rapidly to say everything's good, we're right to start. Apply 100% on channel 5. And there you have it, the tank is in operation. To prove that, we'll just fire the main cannon, fire the machine gun, and show you some. You hear the noises associated with gun elevation, turret rotation, and of course acceleration. To turn the tank off, again you apply 100% on channel 5. Okay, another 10-minute video, but certainly if it'll solve you with any issues you might have if you're trying to connect up this Turnigy receiver. Again, swap channels 2 and 3 and place the receiver select jumper across the top 2 pins. Okay, thanks for that, guys. Catch ya.